That light's going to take some getting used to. Yeah, so this title was actually suggested for me, which is very nice of them. I talked about, I was super mad last year. I was really angry about serverless. And I don't even remember what all I said, but I remember coming away with it just thinking like, all these motherfuckers are just like, they don't know what they're doing. Everything's going to be a shit show. Oh man, I forgot my sticky note. Slow down, don't curse. But like, you're a year old now. Congratulations. How's it going? I feel like, okay, so I was looking over Twitter this morning. I had such a hard time writing this piece because people just kept telling me, say what you said last year. I'm like, that is such a cop-out. And then I was looking over Twitter this morning, and like the top tweet from yesterday was this one. And it's like, okay, welcome to the terrible twos. You've built some stuff. Now it's like it's dying all the time. I don't know if it's alive or dead. I don't know how to debug it. Wow, I don't know how to test it. Deployment's kind of tough. Hi, welcome to Ops. And security is the one that should have been on there, and nobody was mentioning it, which is so typical. Yeah, it seems extremely far-fetched that a movement that was founded on #NoOps would have any difficulties whatsoever with all of these things. Yeah. I have my own biases, though, so let's talk about those. You should know where I'm coming from. I come from operations. I've been doing operations. I've been on call basically since I was 17, so it's not that bad. Get over it. How many of you here have ever heard of or used Parse, backend as a service? Yay! I know Thomas is here too. We wrote Parse together. Parse was my baby. You know, really early on, I joined, and I was the first infra hire and did everything from backend services to databases. On the bright side, I now get to say that I was doing serverless before it was cool. But it really was that. Like it was a backend as a service. I come from the producer side, right? So my sympathies are with the people who have to debug your crap. No harsh feelings whatsoever. It actually really makes me want to help, because over the years at Parse, like it was super obvious to me who was deploying code, who understood what was happening, after they hit deploy. Who had ever thought of what a query planner looked like, for example. When people would deploy their first Parse apps, the playing field was pretty level. And as soon as they started to get users or experience traffic, that was what separated the women from the girls, I guess. But people tend to think that because they're using a service that it's magic. Unfortunately, you're still subject to the rules of the speed of light. Services are not, unfortunately, magic pixie dust. And one of the things that I think that we did at Parse that was a mistake was that we lied to you and told you that it was, right? We're like, just hit deploy, we'll take care of everything, we'll do everything under the hood, and it was a beautiful dream. Unfortunately, I still know of no way to make a query that is doing a 5x full table scan every time perform well. Neither do you. Anyway, we'd have all these great developers, and we didn't give them a lot of visibility to what was happening under the hood either, right? That was another big mistake. As you can tell, Parse got shut down, and I'm processing some of my feelings on stage right now. But we told people that it was magic, and we knew that it wasn't, but we figured by the time that they got that big, they would know better too, and they didn't. And so they'd be yelling at me, Parse is down! I'd be like, no, motherfucker, it's not. Look at all of my graphs. It's not down for 999,000 developers. It is down for you because you did something stupid. Constraints are nice. And this is just like typical of how the whole story usually goes, right? You were promised this dream of you don't have to think about the back end, so you built something where you didn't think about the back end, and Rainbow Dash is sad. And honestly, what Rainbow Dash is experiencing is the need for better ops, right? Operations, and for some people this is a weirdly loaded term, so we could define it, but it's just like operations is a constellation of all of the activities that you undertake under the hood to make things work, honestly. And in the glorious serverless future, I will hazard a guess that you actually, I'm sorry to break this to you, but I think that you need to think about ops more than you did before. And that doesn't mean that you're racking servers. I don't rack servers. I haven't been to a fucking data center since 2007, and good riddance. That shit sucks. Always take good moisturizer if you have to go to a data center, because it leaches all the moisture from your pores. You look like a mummy after a day or two. We're not racking servers. Just like we're not, writing our own databases, these are abstractions. And abstractions are nice. Abstractions are also a lie. Is it a useful lie? If so, we use it. And if not, we don't. But what does this list say? It's monitoring, testing, deployment. And what did I say last year? I said that. It was you're going to have less visibility. You can't fix it yourself. You can't SSH into your Lambda. And it's a last resort to S-trace it because you've lost all hope and you no longer have the will to live. You can't do that. You just get to sit there and have no will to live. The service will protect itself at your expense. A service with lots of co-tenancy issues means that they have to care about them and the mass of customers, their health, not you, when you're doing 0.001% of all revenue and resources. Which is why I think it's important to remember that the best code is no code at all. The second best code is code that someone else developed and maintains, and you can read it, but you don't have to deal with it. And the third best code is any other code at all. My slides are out of order. This is supposed to go earlier, but this is operations. Either that, or you're systematically devaluing an entire discipline of skills that you probably need. In general, you don't make a thing better by ignoring that it exists. This is why I hate no-ops. And anytime someone says no-ops, I'm do we really need developers? Honestly, how hard is it to just glue together some APIs that someone else has built and maintaining and oh, my mom could do that. My dad could do that. Just read some docs. It's not that hard. I get it. I get it why people use ops as a catch-all now. That just means bad patterns of manual labor, but it's not. Also, welcome to ops. So, the first law of operations is, should I do this at all? And whenever you can answer no, answer no. It's the most efficient way to do anything. Just don't do it. When you're thinking about, should I use serverless? You guys know that this is not good for all workloads, right? It's good for things that are loosely coupled. It's good for things with a lot of tolerance for latency and errors, other people's errors that you can't debug, right? What are you guys using serverless for? Anyone?
Everything.
Oh, please. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Image processing.
Image processing. That is a great use for it. That is such a good use. It's sort of it can happen in the background, Thank you. A lot of teams end up wasting so much time because they don't ask these questions at the right time. They ask them when they're ready to launch. Should we really have done this from the beginning? That's a terrible time to ask. You end up shipping stuff that is really fragile. You need operational buy-in from the beginning because you need hard questions to be asked from the beginning. If somebody's trying to add a new persistent store or a new language, We'll just hire an ops team once we have scaling problems. This is a new language for it. We'll just use serverless from the start, which is cool. Which is cool if you're using it for image processing. It's not cool if you're using it for something that is highly user-facing, highly latency-specific, or that requires you to do sort of an end-to-end ownership. Fuck, my slides are really out of order. I'm so sorry. I was just like, but anyway, I feel like DevOps phase 1 is like, all right, ask people learn to code, and this was a message that people really needed to hear, and we did. And we're now firmly into the second phase, which is, all right, software engineers, like, your turn. Software engineers need to know how to own and operate their services from end to end, from the architecture phase, which starts with the questions like, does this need to exist? How many of our existing frameworks and languages and databases and data stores and utilities, how many can we reuse, right? It's about efficiency. All the way through ownership, I think this is clear, my slides, they're out of order. But if you think about how much time and energy you spend developing an app, greenfield, and the amount of time that you spend supporting that app over its life cycle, you can amortize the cost and pain of developing your app to 0. That's right, it costs 0 time to develop an app compared to the amount of time that it's going to be alive. It might be alive for 5 years if you're lucky, right? That's a great app, that's a successful app. But that means that all of that time and pain and energy that you put into developing it, almost nothing. People love ops because we're optimists. Architecting apps for serverless. It's really good for prototyping. That's not a surprise. Web apps. Bustle is doing some really cool stuff. I love the kids at Bustle. They're like the serverless poster child. They also have no idea what's going on inside their services. It was sweet. It's really cute, actually. The 2 things that I think you should be most concerned about are observability and data. Observability because you're giving up so much control. You're giving up so much ability to debug, at last resort by attaching GDB. How many people here have ever not needed to debug via strace and GDB? 2, 3, 4. Well, you will. Your time is coming. You don't have that ability. You are back to being able to debug by printf, hopefully, if those printfs decide to show up in CloudWatch or wherever it is that you're sending that stuff. I was talking to this sweet, poor lost lamb the other day who was like, there's something, it's either in the queue or it's in the Lambda or it's in the queue after the Lambda, but I don't know. I can't tell where it's getting lost. I've added print statements everywhere, and I still can't tell. I'm like, well, I have no magic to give you. You kind of just have to be okay with that. But Lambda is a black box. It is what it is. Despite the best efforts, I know there are a couple people here who have startups. IOPipe? Woo! Yeah. Keep up the good work. You're on your own for a lot of this. The tooling and the ecosystem are so immature as to almost not exist. You're back to the good old days of printfs. Your app is never wholly up or down, right? And this is a realization that I feel like those of us who are control freaks, it's hard for us to deal with, but it's super important. Monitoring, all right, I have a mini rant about monitoring. I hate monitoring. It's terrible. And this dates back to all the lamp stack era tooling, right? Where you're like, I'm going to craft a system, I will look at it, I will predict how it will fail, and then I will monitor for those things, which is stupid. Most of the ways it's going to break, you're never going to guess. Which is why I think that it's way more important to be focusing on instrumentation and observability. And observability is so much more than just monitoring because you need to understand what's happening and not just when it's broken, right? I mean, when it's broken, when it's obviously broken, it's the easiest time to understand a thing, right? You planned for this, probably. But like, sometimes, you have your wall full of your KPIs, your dashboards, and there's something wrong, and you need to jump in and debug it. And the flip side, which is actually harder, is also more common, is all of your KPIs look fine, but people are complaining. Where do you go? Nothing's broken, but something's not working well. So I think it's super important to don't monitor your systems using the same platform you're running on. Distribute your risk. And this goes for everyone in the old school, people like me. I outsource my monitoring because it sucks to have my monitoring go down when my systems go down because they share too many dependencies. It's the time that you least need it to go down. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Serverless is about loosely coupled, APIs. Surely you can find one that isn't the same one that you're hosted on. If it moves, graph it. Yeah, looks a lot like ops. This is a screenshot of Honeycomb because I'm a vendor, and you need to look at it. Come up to me afterwards if you want a demo of Honeycomb. It's actually pretty well suited towards serverless type stuff because Honeycomb is, we just take JSON. There's no schema. There's no index. There are just key value pairs, and you can aggregate on any of them in real time. It's exploratory, and it puts the human in the driver's seat. The other thing that you need to be concerned about is data hygiene. Your data is still your responsibility. I say this with a shit-eating grin because I just love watching front-end engineers try to deal with their data. This is like a 2-hour topic right here. What are you guys using for databases? Postgres? Hosted? Your own? Who's using AWS like DynamoDB and stuff? Cool. How's that going? How many of you people are using Heroku? How many? Come on, give me some of their database stuff. Who's using MySQL or MongoDB? Anyone using like hosted Mongo or anything? Yeah, woo. Cool. Yeah, so you can trust a vendor to do some things, but your data is still your responsibility. Are they doing backups for you? They probably say that they are. You should test that. Most vendors don't monitor their database backups the way that they should, or even close. Sorry. Things that go bump in the night. Your data can get lost. Ask about the retention and recovery policies. Take off-site backups. If they can't give them to you, just set up an automated email via cron to bug them for it, because this is really minimum viable product. Parse didn't have it. You can shit on us too. I don't care. It's hard, but it needs to be done, right? Because especially if you have users, if you're providing a platform of your own, then data gets lost. You need backups. You need incremental backups. You need to be able to have control over those, and outsourcing that control is terrifying. You should validate restores. You don't actually. They're Schrodinger's backups. If you're not testing the restores, you don't actually know if you have backups either. Data security also. Oh my God, at Parse we had these users who didn't know about ACLs. So they crafted these beautiful apps that didn't have ACLs. And then people on the internet started hacking their apps. And I was like, dude, we had ACLs. You didn't use them. You can't blame your vendor for that. You can blame your vendor for not having incremental database backups. You can't blame your vendor for not. But for having security stuff that you don't use. What is your mission, right? Why do you exist? Your mission is not building software, right? Even if you're literally a database vendor, your mission is helping your customers, your users, do what their mission is better. Your mission is something like healthcare. Your mission is something in the real world that makes people's lives better. And I feel like a lot of this stuff around software engineering that doesn't go well gets from getting this confused, right? Maybe your mission is building a great social gaming experience or making the world more open and connected. Any ex-Facebooks here? If you aren't clear on your mission, though, you will make technical decisions that are unclear. You will make them for the wrong reasons. And a lot of us are like, isn't this business stuff? Like, I'm an engineer, why should I care? Well, you can be the best engineer in the world, working the fastest and the bestest, and the wrong thing. You can be completely ineffective or even dangerous if you don't know what your mission is. And like, what's your core business differentiators? Because whatever you're doing that is new and that is critical, that creates your competitive edge, is the stuff that, honestly, you may never be able to outsource. It may be too custom, it may be too important for a lot of things. Like at Parse, we outsource lots of things. Mail, billing, Pingdom, and there are a lot of things that we couldn't. Storage was a core business differentiator for us. We did things with MongoDB that nobody else in the world was doing. You can laugh all you want, but yeah, we started when it had one lock for the entire replica set. Oh, we had to grow up with it. Whatever makes you different, it may be hardest to outsource. And when you're dealing with something like serverless that has so many things baked in that make it unreliable, you should be sure that your core business differentiator can survive that. Image processing is a great idea. It's a great example of something that can. Websites, you got to be careful. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you can pay people to do work for you and to provide services. You can't pay someone to care as viscerally as you do about your app. And you can pay them to give you an SLA, which they may or may not meet. Everyone lies about their SLAs. But it's kind of like the difference between when you're sick and your mom comes to take care of you. She cares. She's vested in your survival. Versus like when you pay Postmates to bring you chicken soup. Your vendors don't care, honestly. Outsourcing is purely a transactional relationship. I love transactional relationships. I don't want to have a deep personal relationship with my mailman or my grocery delivery or PagerDuty or Twilio. I wanted to have a close fucking relationship with MongoDB. I was very dependent upon them. Just know, you can only spare so much emotional availability to have intimate relationships, so you should know who those people are. Making good decisions. You do have to own your critical path. And it probably seems like I'm rehashing this a bit. It's because people keep doing this. If you're outsourcing, understand as much as possible about your service provider and how they're doing things under the hood. The people who understood how Mongo queries worked had a fundamentally better experience of Parse than the people who were just API call, select all star from all columns. Cool. Sort in reverse order by the ID and then select. It's just come on. And the more I understand about Dynamo, the better I am at using it, right? And yes, the vendor is telling you that you don't need to understand it, but they're lying to you. I'm a vendor. I can say this, I'm lying to you. Honeycomb will fix all your shit. Just sign up today. By tomorrow, you're going to be happy camper. Having a mental model about how things work, it just helps you preemptively route around a lot of technical ditches. And you should keep that list as small as possible because it does take up a lot of mental space. You can outsource the work, but you're still responsible for the results, right? You cannot just shift and point fingers at the vendor when there's a problem. You chose them, it's on you. It was on us for choosing MongoDB. We had to teach them how storage engines even work. It's fine. But your users don't care if you have a Mongo election bug that hit you. They care that they're down, right? They don't care if only one availability zone is down. They care that they're down and they chose you. They will still blame you, and they should. Have you ever seen postmortems where companies will blame other companies or technologies in the postmortem? It's so tacky. Don't do that. You chose them. It's on you. In a serverless world, you need them way more than they need you. Probably, unless you're Snapchat and you're talking about Google. You don't want to be the Snapchat of Google engine either. Like, it's about everybody. Like, Snapchat SRE, they literally have jackets. It's funny. Act like you were building for services that were built like summer interns, because you probably are. Graceful degradation is important. Cultivate a team of software engineers who explicitly value their operational excellence. You're doing ops for your app, and you should be good at it. The fundamentals of designing and maintaining a service on the internet, even with all these beautiful abstractions that sometimes say this work, like, software engineering teams that are good at this don't happen by accident. It takes caring, it takes cultivating. You should ask in your interviews, ask a couple of ops questions, not because they're going to know the answers, they probably won't, but it signals that you care. It's not going to be a surprise when they're expected to be on call. And the flip side is make sure the on-call is not miserable. Like, this is about cause and effect, right? It's about closing the loop between cause and effect. You build a thing, it's bad, you get paid. Cool, that's good. It teaches them to do better next time. But if you get into a space where people aren't able to live their lives, or where they have to plan their lives around being on call and they can't leave, don't do that. Like, I feel like ops has gotten such a bad rap, honestly, because we've been masochists for too long. We haven't valued our own time. We haven't gotten upset enough about being woken up at night. Everyone should be unhappy and upset when they get woken up at night. You should not stand for this. If you care about quality services, though, you will support your engineers in developing these muscles and these reflexes, and change your processes and your culture to reflect the value that you actually place on them. I could give a long talk about this, but whatever. Caring about operations, if your business model supports, consists of, if it consists of writing 4 or 5 disposable iOS games or Kim Kardashian apps, just don't page your humans. Like, it's not worth it. If you expect it to be live for 6 months, fuck it. Like, don't burn out your teams. You know how expensive it is to recruit and hire software engineers? Like, don't burn it. Lots of people have magical experiences with backends as a service. Those are the people who are in the common path, right? The thing that gets hit the most often. They're not doing anything unusual or exceptional or interesting. It could be you, I don't know. People expected parse to be magic, and it was not. In fact, there was a distinct inverse correlation between how magical they expected it to be and how good their experience was. In so many ways, this is like the talk that I wish I could have given so many of our customers. When operations is done well, it's invisible. It looks easy. But it's not. And it's not optional, honestly. It's 2016, 2017, Jesus. You would not hire an ops person who couldn't write a line of code. It's not optional. Don't hire a software engineer who won't be on call for their shit. It's not optional. Because the cost of development is approximately 0. You should all read that blog post if you had it. McFunley's and Choose Boring Technology. I love it. He's mostly wrong, but I love it anyway. The more mature your company or your product gets, the more operational impact has to trump every other decision that you make. And this is a sign of success. Like, life is about trading up for better and better sets of problems. You're not getting rid of problems, but hopefully you have better ones next year than you do this year. I'm just going to wrap up here by talking about the glorious future, which, like, serverless development, it's a cute name, I guess. I'm done being angry about it. It's happening. It's a good thing. It's not uniformly, shall we say, mature. You will spend some of your innovation tokens on it if you choose to do this. And if you have high expectations of these services, you will be disappointed. Keep portability in mind. I'm a little bit disappointed with the portability of these services so far. I like functions of the service. I think it's a better term, but whatever. AWS Lambda is great, and oh my God, have you ever tried building anything with it? Oh my God, we tried to just replace a simple cron job for the end-to-end check with AWS Lambda, and it was paging us so much, we were just like, back to cron. But also, the era of having in-house ops teams is coming to a close. Like, ops and DBAs continue to exist, but they're increasingly on the other side of an API from you, which means that you're responsible for the operation stuff up here, thinking about it, planning for it, designing it, architecting it, being on call for it. Someone else is taking care of everything that goes from the bare metal bits up to the API. Never mind that. Category problems. You get to rent the world's best talent. This is actually amazing, right? Like, the best ops and systems people in the world are working for you at Google, at AWS. Like, this is the norm. This is cool. And once you get hooked on that, none of them ever want to go back to like maintaining your shitty app for you. You don't get to have an ops person for your app. You're it. Like, congratulations. I believe in this future. I do. Like, I just started a company that does, observability as a service. That's how much I believe in it. I also, I spent years and years before that, up until about 2 years ago, believing that, yes, we should outsource things that are not in our critical path, but metrics and observability, I thought, were in our critical path. I thought that that you should be ashamed, to be a systems team that didn't do your own metrics. Stuff changes. But you must always, this is not ever going to change. You must own the operational excellence for your core differentiators. Hashtag serverless ops. The 10x engineer is a myth, and I've been shitting on this for a long time. I'm like, who's really designing the chip that they're using at the same time as they're building the API and designing the front end stuff with JavaScript? And this has been irritating me for a long time, but you know what? It's becoming less of a myth because we're in the process of designing all of the building blocks and making them available to general software engineers so that they actually can. This is what Docker was. Docker was not about containers. Ask anyone who's ever used Solaris about containers, they get mad. It's been decades, right? Docker was not about containers. Docker was about making all of the primitives of release engineering available to the general software engineer. Right? Good enough. The same way the iPhone camera was good enough, right? It's not the best thing ever. It's good enough. It's great. That's what I'm trying to do with Honeycomb, is make observability, available to general software engineers. Good enough. I believe in this. I believe that over the next few years, we are going to create everything that we need for a general software engineer to be, truly self-serve and really great at what they do. We're getting there. That's about it. Yeah. Questions? I think we do have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Charity. You wanted to take some questions?
3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough, fair enough. We can shout them out if you have any.
I feel like I had to use rainbows to make up for all the depressing stuff. What? Show you Honeycomb? Sure.
There you go. There you go. I'll come stand over here. We'll get out the way of the screen.
Let me use a separate display. Mirror. Yeah, there we go. AV is definitely the hardest thing in computer science. So Honeycomb was designed by a bunch of us ex-parsers based on our experiences at Facebook using Scuba. There are a bunch of white papers out there about Scuba. So I'll show you just a screech. I know I only have 2 or 3 minutes. But what we're trying to do here is make something that encourages exploration. My beef with monitoring and metrics is that it's fixed. You look at a fixed dashboard, you can't interact with it. You can't say, and then what? And then what? What if I add this? This here is this is a demo. Also, history. Fucking pisses me off how none of the tools have history and collaboration baked in. I feel, I want my bash history, so this right here, how hard was that to just have the history of all the things that I've clicked on? Little green, red diffs, that's not even necessary. I believe strongly in the power of history. I also believe in collaboration. See, I have my team history here. So this may surprise you, I hate monitoring and metrics, with a deep and fiery passion. I hate everything about them. I'm bad at them. I don't think that way, which is why I've hired my friend Ben 3 times in a row, because he does think that way. And you'll see him up late into the night crafting this perfect, beautiful graph. And I'm really good at bookmarking that graph, right? And I add a couple tags, and I have access to that knowledge forever. So what we do here is like, this is like, it's a SQL-esque grammar at the top, just because engineers tend to understand that. And here you can see the result of debugging session, where we figured out that the canary was resulting in a spike in latency, timing out to like the fraud service. Find me afterwards if you want a more in-depth one. But like, I'll just say a couple of things. I know you can cut me off, but like, here's the thing. Like, we're going straight from a world where it's like one person, one node, doing like whatever, straight to like, well, we can no longer figure out what's wrong with our services, obviously, because they're getting vastly more complex, with distributed services and like microservices and, distributed systems and like polyglot persistence and like loosely coupled shit like you guys are doing. Nobody can figure out what's going wrong. So they're like, oh, okay, let's do like predictive analytics and like anomaly detection, like machine learning and stuff. And I'm just like, haven't we like skipped a step? What about what the people who sit next to you every day and work on the same stuff think? Like debugging is such a social act. Like it just is. We debug like on the shoulders of the people who come before us, who built better tools than we could ever build. Like if I'm on call, I don't want to be discovering for the first time things that like were discovered the last time someone was on call and a month ago when someone was on call, and yet we are. Like it's so cognitively expensive, just answering a new question once. The first time you get a question, it's an engineering problem. You don't know how long it's going to take. It's an unknown unknown. It could take days, After you see it, after you've answered it that one time, it should not be an engineering problem. It should be a support problem, right? So that's the goal. We're just trying to help with it. Thanks a lot.